see what happens here. Yeah. Hopefully the volume between me... Yeah, I'm losing my voice. Hopefully the volume between me and everything else. Every Tuesday I'm doing like an improv live stream. Eventually I'll have a schedule for this. But for right now it's kind of like me just doing it. For certain things I don't have time to make full video reactions. I can just hop on here, talk about it, do a react about it, you know, say a few things, and then there you go. I have a lot of different videos I'm working on at the moment, but I wanted to step out because I've seen this on my YouTube live feed, and I'm like, this may be the resolution finally of the whole the shit with Reckless Ben and Bricks and MiniFigs. That shit to me was ridiculous, and it got to the point where, yeah, it was overkill. It was everywhere, right? But it felt like I had an obligation, even though I'm a small creator, to like actually have, get it out there, right? So then I see that Coffeezilla did another video where he's finally able to talk about the resolution between the Mansell family and Bricks and MiniFigs. I don't know anything about this. It's the first time I'm watching it with y'all. So if you like this, hey, please like, comment, subscribe. Also put your notifications on, and I also have people on Twitch. Give me a follow. You don't have to subscribe. I don't. All right. Sounds counterintuitive. I know. Let's just get in to see what Coffeezilla has to say. Also, mind you, I just woke up a little while ago, and I probably look like shit. I walked to the store, came back, and I'm like, I just want to do this live. So, all right. Let's just get to it. Let me know how the volume is.
Bricks and MiniFigs, the settlement that finally happened. Although the story is not over, I'm going to give you the behind the scenes.
Oh, the story's not over. Of course, first thing he says, the story's not over. I'm going to move my camera. It's crazy because here I'm thinking, yeah, the story's over, guys. It's all over, finally. Finally, it's over. It's not. Damn it. I don't know what's going on with that. What the hell? All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let me go back one more time to see if I missed anything.
I can finally talk about it. My behind the scenes work with the Mansell family, Bricks and MiniFigs, the settlement that finally happened. Although the story is not over, I'm going to give you the behind the scenes look to show you how self-inflicted this wound for Bricks and MiniFigs really was. It's unbelievable. As bad as you think it is, it's so much worse. I literally, behind the scenes, nobody knew until now, was secretly trying to talk myself out of an 8 million viewed video, guys, that I did 2 months ago. The saga is still going on. Thousands of YouTubers are paying their rent every month with the Lego drama checks. And we tried to stop it early on. I mean, we tried to put an end to this thing. It was obvious what the solution always was. And
yeah, I'm wondering, am I coming through? All right, you know what? I'm terrible at live streaming. Let's just put it that way. But am I coming through? That's all you have to let me know, please. Because I'm having an issue with my chat as always. All right. Now, I want to go back a little bit because I was a little distracted to see what's going on. My notification here. Okay.
I literally, behind the scenes, nobody knew until now, was secretly trying to talk myself out of an 8 million viewed video, guys.
Why?
That I did 2 months ago. The saga is still going on. Thousands of YouTubers are paying their rent every month with the Lego drama checks. And we tried to stop it early on. I mean, we tried to put an end to this thing. It was obvious what the solution always was. And I want to show you some of that behind the scenes work. It wasn't just me, by the way. And ultimately, I wasn't successful, okay? You know, obviously, lawyers had to get involved. It got super expensive. Months went on where the obvious thing didn't happen. But my point is, this got so dragged out. This is a story that should have lasted exactly 6 seconds, that seemingly has been going on for months now and will.
Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it was dragging out forever. You seen Reckless Ben everywhere. You seen Bricks and MiniFigs. You see Brick by Brick as a meme everywhere. And it got to the point where I just felt like, okay, I reacted to so many videos of it, and I got to the point where I'm like, I do mostly music videos, but I felt like there's part of me that should be reacting to this because it's important, because people get fucked over all the time. Pardon my French. They really do. And I was like, you know, even if I can show 10 people, 2 people, whatever, you know, a few of my videos of it, you know, got some views. A lot of people didn't watch the whole thing. I'm sure of it. My point is like, he's right in a way. This is something that should have just was over in no time, but it wasn't. You can kind of blame what's his name, the CEO of Bricks and MiniFigs, and his brother for all that shit, because they didn't care. They were ready to burn their own company into the ground. Let it go. They didn't care.
It'll probably take, you know, over a year longer. I mean, we have still litigation ongoing. So I want to break all of that down for you today. I've been holding on to this, knowing that eventually I really want to talk about it. I didn't sooner because I didn't want to torch the chance of any deal. Obviously, we now saw one come to light, and so that's why I feel comfortable talking about it now. And I'm only going to show just a few of the messages to prove the point, which is that everyone knew the solution literally months ago.
Thing is, last time I heard it, it was going to court on, as far as like the Reckless Ben side of it, and Reckless Ben was going to get paid out, but then there's litigation with him and the American Fork Police Department, I think. And I'm like, there's a lot of moving parts with this, and I'm sure it's going to take years before everybody's made whole. But, you know, you think with a company the size of Bricks and MiniFigs that they would settle. But here's the thing. Now I'm hearing there's more franchisees that were getting screwed over. It's not just one store that they took over and stole merchandise from, supposedly. That's, you know, what I'm seeing. And that's the reason why I'm kind of like, I was at one point in time, I was like, I'm just going to make it short and say, okay, what is my point here of even talking about this? Okay, it's over with. I think it's going in court and it's going to be done and over with, and it's not. It's it's not.
And rather than doing that, the hard way has been chosen every step of the way. Like, the worst possible decision has been chosen repeatedly, to the point you start to wonder if this is some sadistic need to be dunked on by the internet. We have to learn from what might be one of the greatest corporate fiascos of all.
Yeah, what was it? The McNuff brothers. The CEO's like lying, going on Fox News and all these other places and just lying about everything. Oh, we tried to do this and we were going to give him this settlement, and he never really explained how much money he was going to give or any of that crap, because it seemed like he was just going to give him, oh, well, we owe you 80 grand. Well, we're not going to tell you that. What we're going to do is we have like $5,000 worth of Lego in the store, and that's the only thing that was left in the store, and that must be yours. So here you go, and leave us alone, that type of shit. And I've been there before because I pawned some things, but I was going back to get it within a week, and I had a month and it was gone. That pawn shop, I've talked about it on one of the reactions I did. They used to give like addicts lists. They go out and get things, steal it, bring it to the pawn shop, and they'd give them a portion of what it's worth, and then they'd sell the stuff online. And they're a franchise pawn shop, so they could do something similar to what it seemed like Bricks and Minifigs was doing by transporting things to one brick and mortar store to another and selling it in another location and or online, and just pretending like we don't know what you're talking about.
All time. Otherwise, what was it really worth, guys? I mean, yes, finally, the Mansells are being paid, and I am happy about that. Here's
Finally.
the official story. The Mansells confirmed they've been compensated by BAM for the losses associated with their consignment arrangement. We don't get an exact dollar figure, but it's probably somewhere in the realm of what would make the Mansell family feel good. But bear in mind, this is all under the context of they were also sort of being sued in a RICO lawsuit during that time. So it does feel a bit under duress. Again, I want to discuss this in more detail, but before I do, I want to take you back to when all of this started for me personally. Now,
okay, so he's been involved in this for a minute too. So it looks like Reckless Ben was trying to seek other. I'm gonna let him explain it, because there's things that are redacted out of there because of obvious reasons. Probably people's information.
This is an email exchange with Reckless Ben, who of course is the guy who started the whole saga and, you know, basically caused the Mansells to get kind of compensated in the first place, because he's the one who applied the pressure to Bricks and Minifigs. He contacted me on May 26th, 2026, to just kind of, you know, pitch the idea of me covering this story.
That's interesting. I think, honestly, when Coffeezilla actually covered this is when Reckless Ben got more traction. And I don't mean like his videos blew up, but it seemed like nobody was taken as seriously as they should have. They were just like, oh, it's a scandal, you know, people get screwed over all the time, that type of thing. And Coffeezilla, and then that whole U-Haul scandal thing with, oh, there was one U-Haul on one day, and then another day there was another U-Haul, but it wasn't used to move Legos on one day, but it was used to move Legos on another. And it's like, bro, like, that doesn't even sound like anything remotely true. And then, the American Fork Police. So that was a whole other thing.
Immediately, I kind of looked into it and I decided not to do it. I did not want to get involved early on. It's not that it wasn't important. It's just that I felt like all I would really be doing is rehashing what other people said, and I just wasn't.
That's kind of how I felt after I started doing more and more reactions on it. I'm like, the first 2 reactions I did, you know, got a little bit of traction. And then later on, people are getting sick of it. You know, that's the thing about the way the world works, and especially with social media. There's stories and people just kind of breeze over everything. You know, it's hot for like a week or a month, and then people move on, and then it's the next thing, and people kind of forget what happened in the first place. And litigation is slow. It takes forever. Litigation sucks. And so, you know, yeah, I mean, this will be going on for years, and people will be like, oh, I remember that, when it's finally resolved completely.
Interested in that type of thing.
I
said, I'm not sure how much I could add to what's already been said.
I just realized I'm in his way again. Let me move over. Okay. I'm probably going to be in the way of everything, so I'm just going to go over here. How's that? All right. But, yeah, the thing is, like, there's a lot of shits going on with this. People are going to forget. But then when the whole thing is said and done, people are going to be like, oh, I remember that. I remember that. Okay. You know, that's the way it works.
And given that you and the wider community seem to be handling it well, I'm inclined to watch it from the sidelines. That's May 26th. So honestly, I wasn't even going to get involved in the first place. You would have never heard the word Coffeezilla.
Wait. Is that 2025? See, that's another thing. The timestamps on Reckless Ben's videos are confusing. One of them said 2019, another one says 2021, another one said 2024, and they're all over the place. So originally I was like, now I know, but originally I was like, when the hell did this start? But it was about 2 years ago now. I'm going to go back a little bit because I was yapping.
In the first place, because he's the one who applied the pressure to Bricks and MiniFigs. He contacted me on May 26th, 2026,
okay,
to just kind of, pitch the idea of me covering this story. Immediately, I kind of looked into it and I decided not to do it. I did not want to get involved
Feels like
early
a fever
on.
dream
It's
at this
not
point.
that it wasn't important. It's just that I felt like all I would really be doing is rehashing what other people said, and I just wasn't interested in that type of thing. I said, I'm not sure how much I could add to what's already been said, and given that you and the wider community seem to be handling it well, I'm inclined to watch it from the sidelines. That's May 26th. So honestly, I wasn't even going to get involved in the first place. You would have never heard the word Coffeezilla Lego scandal had it not been for what happened the very next day. So on
the very next day. Interesting. Now, I remember seeing this for the first time, and I was like, I didn't think nothing of it. I thought it was bullshit. And when I reacted to the first video, I was like, this is fake. It's got to be. The first video was so over the top. They had the little thing where they're like dancing around the Legos and the fire, and they're like, oh, we're going to brainwash the girl. But then I realized he's using satire to get people interested in something that is actually legitimate, and it kind of worked because the videos blew up, but it also started getting, started making some mistakes, I think, like some big ones, but it worked out kind of at least for Bryan. We don't know how much he made, but at least he made something.
On May 27th, 2026, this gets filed. A massive lawsuit against Reckless Ben that in total was over $1 million. Bricks and MiniFigs puts the gloves on and decides rather than, just pay people back, they're going to fully go to war with the YouTuber who started it all. And by the way, they're still going to war with him. They still are trying to bankrupt him, in my view. And
yeah, because they don't care if they win. They bring him to court and they can have this go for years. That's what they're trying to do. But now that there's more and more information and discovery and everything else, I think the McNeff brothers are so used to doing this. I think they've done this before. What I mean is, I think they've taken other people's property from other stores and they just decided, you know what? This guy is nobody. He's just a YouTuber. They kept saying that. And then they started saying, he's a YouTuber and he's, making things up and yada, yada. And it's like, bro, either he's a nobody or he's somebody who's so scary and he's making, wild claims or whatever. It can't be both. I mean, I guess it could be, but yeah, it was ridiculous.
And they're still trying to destroy him for what he did to their brand. They feel like he wronged them and whatever. And that's why I say, despite the Mansells now being, paid back for this whole thing, it actually doesn't fully end the saga because we still have Bricks and MiniFigs trying to basically destroy Reckless Ben's life. And it's in that same lawsuit, by the way, with Ben that we also...
I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to try to make... Okay, they're going to make Bryan Mansell whole. Jesus. Can't even talk. Like I said, I just woke up. Try to make him whole and then turn around and be like, hey, do you want to be... Basically, they're not going to ask. They're going to try to make him a witness and say that something else is going behind the scenes, like Ben was being paid to make Bricks and MiniFigs look bad type of shit. That's what I think they're going to try to pull because the RICO charge and all that stuff seemed ridiculous. That's for mobsters. It's not for some YouTube kid that is just trying to investigate you, okay? I mean...
also have Bryan Mansell personally being listed as one of the defendants.
Yeah,
so he himself was being sued in this giant lawsuit as well, which just struck me as so deeply...
Okay, my bad. Yeah, So they're still trying to sue, still trying to sue Mansell and pay him at the same time. Is this what I'm hearing? Because I knew that they were trying to sue both of them. Okay. And I'm yapping over coffee, so let me go back. This is why I like to go back, because I want to hear everything. I'll let him talk. I already said my
and
piece.
you know, basically caused the Mansells to get kind of compensated in the first place because he's the one who applied the pressure to Bricks and MiniFigs. He contacted me on May 26th, 2026, to just kind of, you know, pitch the idea of me covering this story. Immediately, I kind of looked into it and I decided not to do it. I did not want to get involved early on. It's not that it wasn't important. It's just that I felt like all I would really be doing is rehashing what other people said. And I just wasn't interested in that type of thing. I said, I'm not sure how much I could add to what's already been said. And given that you and the wider community seem to be handling it well, I'm inclined to watch it from the sidelines. That's May 26th. So honestly, I wasn't even going to get involved in the first place. You would have never heard the word Coffeezilla Lego scandal had it not been for what happened the very next day. So on May 27th, 2026, this gets filed. A massive lawsuit against Reckless Ben that in total was like over $1 million. Bricks and MiniFigs puts the gloves on and decides.
Yeah, wasn't it 1.6 million or 1.2? It was a ridiculous amount, enough to bury Reckless Ben. Even though Ben, also the GoFundMe to try to take in that. I'm sure he'll talk about that, but we already know this. I mean, again, like Coffee said, it feels like you're just talking about the same thing over and over. I was hoping there's going to be more of like a happy resolution, like the Mansell family got paid off or paid for their compensated, right, for their things that they own. I mean, that was stolen from them, which is so fucked up. And they just left Reckless Ben alone. In a perfect world, that would be how it would be, but
rather than, you know, just pay people back, they're going to fully go to war
Yeah.
with the YouTuber who started it all. And by the way, they're still going to war with him. They still are trying to bankrupt him, in my view. And they're still trying to destroy him for what he did to their brand. They feel like he wronged them and whatever. And that's why I say, despite the Mansells now being, you know, paid back for this whole thing, it actually doesn't fully end the saga because we still have Bricks and MiniFigs trying to basically destroy Reckless Ben's life. And it's in that same lawsuit, by the way, with Ben, that we also have Bryan Mansell personally being listed as one of the defendants. So he himself was being sued in this giant lawsuit as well, which just struck me as so deeply wrong. And so you just saw, I said, I'm not going to get involved with this. Against my initial thought, said, okay, May 28th, this is the next day. I've seen a bit more of this play out, and I'm starting to have some stronger feelings about this, particularly given the legal threats against yourself and others. What's a good number to reach out, etc. So this is when I first get involved.
Also, Coffee did a video where Charlie talked about this. Penguin Zero. He talked about how people were going to franchise stores and attacking people in the stores saying, oh, haven't you seen Reckless Ben? Do you see what's going on? All this evil shit and the company itself. And it's all these different franchises that nobody knew if they had anything to do with anything, right? It was all new. So people were going to the conclusion that everybody was involved in this, like every store. So everybody should be punished. And if you don't agree with me, and Coffee said in the video, it was just a short video, he's like, this has got to stop. I mean, this has nothing to do with what's going on in a completely different store. My dog is over there throwing up. Okay, let's continue. She's all right.
Oh, what I'm telling you is, I was never going to investigate this. I had other stuff going on, other investigations happening, and I see this extreme overreaction from Bricks and MiniFigs Corporate to basically try to destroy the life of a YouTuber who frankly brought an injustice to light. Now, I start investigating, and it's at this point that I begin to speak to everyone. At first, it's just to do the investigation part, but while I get access to everyone, I start realizing, man, I kind of hope I can broker a deal here.
Oh, okay. So he was the reason why they, he did say, because I reacted to the video he made where he talked to everybody about how much the Lego collection was worth. And he talked to, I'm starting to forget everybody's names. I'm terrible with remembering names. The McNeff brothers, and about the U-Haul thing, and then the lady that owned the franchise prior. Her name will come to me, but her and her husband both literally got kicked out of the store, and I can't think of their last names. But the point is, like, he talked to everybody, and he made a good video of that, and I reacted to that, and I thought at that video, I was like, I did react to one Mother video, and I was like, okay, this is it. This has got to be it. This has got to be it. This has got to be it, right? It wasn't. It isn't, but yeah. So he was behind the scenes helping out as much as he could, which I appreciate. That is really what I know Coffeezilla to do. He's done that with Crypto Zoo, with the victims, trying to get their story out there. It's honorable.
Like, it seems obvious, like so obvious to everyone involved that the Mansells need to be paid. And he shouldn't have ever been part of this ridiculous $1 million plus lawsuit that would definitely inflict more pain on him. And he's the victim in this. Why is this happening? So it was obvious to me he was going to have to be made right. And also, like, he'd have to be dropped from the lawsuit. So I start to engage in what is basically like a non-lawyer, hey, let me just kind of back channel, hopefully, a resolution. It was pretty obvious to me. Lawyers are just going to complicate this. It's a very simple answer. You just have to pay this guy and walk away. And then, honestly, what is the story after?
That's what Reckless Ben was saying. He's like, I didn't want to get lawyers involved. Everybody kept asking me, why don't I get a lawyer involved? Because they'll just make a settlement agreement, brush it under the rug type of thing. Everybody signs an agreement that nobody could talk about it, and then they do it again, right? So that's why he kept pushing, and a lawyer would have just told him, don't do that. And I'm sure he did have a lawyer on retainer, at least, because some of the things he did later on were probably, advised by a lawyer. And also, Bryan Mansell's wife is a lawyer, so she was always around. It's not like, she probably even told him there's certain things you shouldn't do, certain things you shouldn't put on your videos, that type of thing. But it's good that Coffeezilla came to the same conclusion, like, listen, just pay the guy. It'll be better for your company, your brand, like, they lost millions of dollars because they didn't just pay the guy for his merchandise that they had, and it's so stupid. It is.
That, like, guy gets paid what he was owed. Like, initially he was wrong, but then the corporate makes it right. Like, it seems like, although they wouldn't have made it right in time, this is late May, early June. I mean, the story had kind of gotten some traction, but not nearly as big as it was gonna go. It was just starting to go national, and I'm like, just like pay the guy, drop him from this ridiculous lawsuit, and you're done. Because it doesn't even make financial sense at this point. Because even at the biggest headline number, we're only talking about $200,000 in Legos, and that's even what the Gormans originally said. It was actually worth less than that. So
Gormans, that's right, the Gormans. They also had a lawsuit, and they also were being sued by Bricks and MiniFigs. There's so many moving parts with this story. And then there are other people that are coming out. I've seen it on my feeds, but I didn't watch any of them. But you can kind of put two and two together when you see franchisee comes out and says same thing happened to their store in a different location with the same bad actors. You kind of put two and two together without even watching the video, right? And unfortunately, or fortunately, down the road, I am going to talk more about this. The reason why I do stories like this too, because yeah, my channel is Guitarist Reacts, but I want to react to other things as well as, but I do concentrate mainly on music, yes, but other things are important as well. Okay, all right, continue.
It's not that much money compared to the millions of dollars of damages that are happening to the Bricks and MiniFigs brand. This is a multi-million-dollar corporation. They're torching their goodwill with the public, and I'm just pointing out the obvious. Like, this doesn't make sense at all, you know?
Yeah, they did. They're worth, like, I think they're worth $400 million, $450 million yearly, and then they're like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to torch our brand. We're going to, so many of their partners that worked with them that had to do with miniatures and stuff like that just decided to walk away from them because it's bad. It's a bad look. It is when you got somebody that you owe, even if it was 100,000 or 50,000, it doesn't matter. It's just the principle of having good relation with, you know, your customer base.
I'm a third party. I'm unsolicited advice here, guys, but you should probably stop the nonsense. And so, you know, I tell them, and this is just my own text, okay? I say, I'm trying to back channel a solution that I think is probably inevitable anyways. Bryan has to be made whole and dropped from the suit. The sooner that happens, the better. Call when you can. This happens on June 4th, okay? This is almost a week before my video. I'm trying to prevent all this from happening, or at least substantially make the story less interesting.
Well, that's another thing too. The McNeff brothers, especially Ammon, he didn't care. He was going on Fox News. He's going on any program, any podcast that he could, and he's like, you know, they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're threatening their employees and calling the police all the time and making this, you know, legal paper trail of, you know, calling the police and saying we're being threatened. There's a bomb threat. There's a gun threat. There's this threat, and it's just, dude, that is not the way to go about it. He could have paid Bryan Mansell $500,000, right, to make it like, hey, make a big spectacle out of it. Paid him off and been like, hey, this is what the brand that we are. We love our customer base, and there was an issue. We resolved it, and we paid him like almost 3 times as much as his collection was worth. That's the type of people we are, and they would have got so much more goodwill, so much more money back from people coming to their stores. But they didn't do that. You know, it doesn't make any sense as a business owner. You don't do that.
I'm like, let's just get this guy paid and move on with our lives, right? By the way, the text under that is, I know it feels impossible, but consider dropping the lawsuits against everyone in this story. Yes, including Ben. I don't think this escalation ladder of lawsuits of $1.3 million over what amounts to about $100,000 in actual missing Legos makes sense, is going to resolve this, or helps your brand. Okay. So I'm really giving, honestly, some, what now in hindsight looks like incredible advice, to be honest, which is just like, hey, this is all going to snowball. This is a disaster. Just drop it. Be done. There's an easy solution here, which, by the way, half of which we've already seen come true. Literally, we saw it just now, August 19th. They dragged it out in the media for 2 months, letting their brand be tarnished, you know, by their own actions, frankly, because they knew early on that they could have gotten this done earlier. And basically, by the way, just so you know, a lot of the breakdown ended up being that they disagreed on dropping the RICO lawsuit. Like, would they drop the RICO lawsuit before mediation, after mediation? There was a big disagreement about that. And
see, things like that too. You get lawyers in a room and then they haggle. It's like a bunch of vacuum cleaner salesmen back in the day, you know, like, oh, we can get this much and we could do this and this has got to happen, and you got to come out with a statement and say, you know, this, that, the other thing, and then the other side comes back with a counter, and then everybody has to sign an agreement, you know, about certain things that were said or done or paid off and all that shit. It's a it's a lot of bullshit. But I mean, like, in this case, they just had to pay the guy. You know what I mean? The quicker they would have paid him, the better it would have been for Bricks and Minifigs. Unfortunately, I don't think they're very bright.
That's kind of where my part fell apart, and I washed my hand of it, and I said, I can't help you guys. Basically, there was no bridging that gap.
And he's saying that with Bricks and Minifigs, I can't help you guys. Because really, he probably seen what's going to happen next. He's covered enough of these type of stories where Bricks and Minifigs was going into, no pun intended, into a brick wall, head first. And it was their own doing. It wasn't like something that, that somebody else did to them. They did it. And then they kept talking. And every time you seen Ammon talk, it was just, we tried, that didn't make any sense ever. The U-Haul thing definitely didn't make any sense. You go back and watch him talk about that U-Haul story, it's just...
Because one party is saying, like, you have to drop the RICO lawsuit before we can settle these missing Legos. And the other side's like, well, come to the table and we'll talk. It's like, okay. Ultimately, there was just too big of a lack of trust, and the lawyers continued to get more and more involved. And ultimately, got it done after months of work, and I'm sure they all took their piece. That's kind of what's sad about this whole thing is, like, I think...
True. Yeah. The whole thing about that is, of course, the lawyers are going to make all the money. That's the way it works. I mean, sad but true. That's another thing I think Reckless Ben was trying to get away from. And why he made the GoFundMe is to just get Bryan some money and then be able to pay for the legal fees. I think that's what he was saying at one point in time, but now, you know what? I don't know.
I think the real winners here are sadly the lawyers. The biggest losers are Bricks and Minifigs out of all of this, because they have stretched what should have been basically $100,000 to $200,000 problem into a multi-million-dollar loss for themselves. And I know they probably think to themselves, like, in their head, the big villain is Ben, and that's why they refuse to drop the lawsuit against them. Ironic.
I don't know. I think it was pride. I think with Ammon, I think he thought in his own mind, like, you know what? I'm not gonna let some punk kid, come in and tell me what I can and cannot do in my own building. I think that's what it felt like to me, anyway. I was like, because when Reckless Ben went in there and was like, "Hey, you have Bryan Mansell's Legos. He just wants them back. Can we work a deal to get, when can I come get them on his behalf?" And they're just like, nope, didn't happen. And then when he's like, well, we're going to get him regardless. And he should have worded it better, but I think Ammon took that as a threat. And then, and then he was like, I'm going to match your energy and go beyond the pale of being ridiculous. Like, we're going to sue you for a, million plus and RICO charge and all this other shit. Oh, and by the way, American Fork Police, I heard, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I heard, is that they're paid almost like a security firm is paid, like privately. It is maybe a rumor, but the people in American Fork are up in arms. They've been protesting about the way, and it's not just Reckless Ben. I guess American Fork City Police have been known to get aggressive with people over nothing. So I don't know if that's crazy too. That's a whole other story.
It's their wanting to punish Ben that I think is preventing them from realizing that they are just hurting their own store franchisees. At this point, they're the reason this is all still in the media. And if they could see that and look past their sort of hatred of Ben, trying to destroy Ben, it would help them a lot. And I say that as someone, by the way, who doesn't want to see Bricks and MiniFigs and all their franchisees fail. Like, I feel bad for a lot of the people who have been affected by this. I'm also not a person who blamed them for all of the problems, right? If you see my original video, there were a lot of people who actually shared some of the blame in how all of this got lost, right? Like you had the Gormans that had some accounting issues. You had some missing Legos at the store. You had some side.
Yeah, there was another thing too that I thought was weird is that whole layaway thing. You have a consignment deal with somebody and then you're going to put all of his stuff on these weird layaways where people give only like $10 and then they have like, 20 different items on layaway. And then when they pay one off and then I think she was getting, this is another opinion. I think she was taking some of that money from those layaways and putting it in her own pocket. So that's another thing too. That's probably something that, as a store, being a franchise and with the main office of Bricks and MiniFigs being kind of fishy and weird and scammy and con artists, you're never probably going to hear anything about that. If they'll probably settle in the, they probably come out in 20 years or something. I don't know. Things like this tend to get swept under the rug sometimes or lost in the sauce.
Deal stuff. So you had a lot of different elements that made up these missing Legos. I not only fully acknowledge that, we are the ones who brought that to light. And yet, I'm telling you, as someone who's seen it from behind the scenes, the reason this story has had legs for so long is all of these escalations and unwillingness to drop all of this legal stuff. The irony, of course, is that they think Ben is the monster who's destroying their company, when in actuality,
That's a good point. And like I said, I don't think Ben was trying to destroy their company. I think he was just trying to get down to the nitty gritty of what's going on here, right? It just happened to be that it was a bad look. And every time that he would do something, the way they reacted to it made them look worse. And then them going on those interviews and, like I said, rehashing the same old ground. But I just feel like as a company, Bricks and MiniFigs could have, and Coffee said the same thing, they could have went in a different direction, could have just settled, got this taken care of. And, I don't even think Reckless Ben would have, say Reckless Ben got involved and he made one video and then Bricks and MiniFigs went and told Bryan Mansell, like, we're going to pay you the money plus some money and, sorry, make a big deal about it. And then Ben would have been the one that would have had to walk back his video. It would have made him look bad. But it didn't work out that way. And it turned out to be the opposite, where instead of, the company looking better, they looked worse. Every video came out, they looked worse. So
I think if you look at the facts of the case, it's them. It's their decisions that have caused people like myself and the entire world to get interested in this story. So while I think it's fair for them to criticize some of Ben's methods, and I think some of them were a little bit extreme, at the end of the day, the larger picture is that he got somebody who was wronged, paid back money. It's obvious to everyone that Bricks and MiniFigs would not have made this settlement without Ben being involved. So you can't.
That's true. I don't think they would have. I think Bryan would have been fucked over. He would have been screwed out of that money, regardless if it was only $1,000. Doesn't matter. It's principle, right? Somebody is selling things through your store, and you just like take the franchise and do whatever with the merchandise and being like, this never happened. You're hallucinating, never happened. Yeah, I mean,
can't on the one hand excuse Bryan Mansell from this lawsuit, pay him money, literally apologize, saying, quote, Bam has issued an unqualified apology to the Mansell family for the losses and pain suffered, and yet keep up the lawsuit against the guy who brought it to light in the first place. The lack of self-awareness, the lack of the ability to say, hey, unequivocally, we were wrong. We are not hedging with lawyers. We're not, we're not suing people. We are just fully apologizing and making things right. That was always the answer. It still is the answer, and they can still choose that path if they want to. But given our current history, I won't hold my breath. I expect a long, drawn-out legal campaign that makes no one but the lawyers rich. Anyways, that's basically it. Just wanted to talk about my personal experience behind the scenes, and I'm glad the Mansells finally got paid.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm glad they got paid too, because, I mean, at least Bryan got his money and their family is out of it, I hope. And then Reckless Ben, if he's going to continue going to court, being brought to court, I should say, hopefully, that works out. That's the next step, I believe. Anyway, I'm Dethfender. If you like this, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to be doing a bunch of musical reactions that are coming out in video form. This, like I said, every Tuesday around this time, eventually I will have a schedule, but I will be doing a live stream about something. Some stuff would be random. Some things may even be on my list of reactions that people suggested, because I'm making those in the videos, but I may make a few just as live streams. Anyway, I appreciate you watching, and talk to y'all later.